What's up, everybody? My name is Amy, and this is the Ruby Pearl Glamper True Crime Podcast.
Get your wave and you're sitting on top of the world.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Ruby Pearl Glamper True Crime Podcast. My name is Amy. Welcome to my show. Hope everyone is having a wonderful Sunday evening. It's been kind of hot during the day here in Arkansas, but these nights have been very cool, so it's nice to have somewhat of a break from the heat and whatnot. I've also had a headache for 2 days that I've been trying to get rid of, so story of my life. But anyway, I am really excited to share the case that I'm going to share with everyone in this podcast. This case is very, very near and dear to me. First, I do have a few updates on some cases that I'm covering. Ethan Crumley, the accused Oxford school shooter, and his parents, Jennifer and James Crumley, their trials have been postponed to 2023. Ethan's trial has been postponed to January 17th, 2023. And his parents, they don't have a date set for their trial yet. They are fixing to have another hearing, though, because they are disputing. I don't know if it's the prosecution or the defense, but one of them is disputing a professional witness. So they're going to be having a hearing here pretty soon on that. Also, Megan Boswell, her case has been postponed till 2023. So that's another case I've been covering. And of course, we have the Lori Vallows Daybell and Chad Daybell, known as the Doomsday Couple. Their trial will be taking place in, I believe it's supposed to be January 2023, but I'm sure they'll probably, put it off as long as they can. There's been so many motions and pretrial motions and stuff in that case that I watched the documentary Our Mother's Sins of Our Mother on Netflix earlier, and my God, I've been following that case since it broke. I was actually running a missing persons page on Facebook with my youngest daughter's cousin until we had a falling out. But we, really, really pushed to find JJ and Tylee, and it was just so sad when they found them, and everything that has come out about that case, and all the details and all the different murders, Charles Vallow, Tammy Daybell. I don't know how Alex Cox died. It claims of natural causes, but I I don't believe in coincidence, and he didn't just coincidentally die the day after they exhumed Tammy Daybell's body. So, but man, that is just the case of the century, kind of like OJ. My first television trial was the OJ Simpson trial in the 90s, and now this Lori Vallows and Chad Daybell case is, ever so often we have those cases, those crazy cases with cult leaders and stuff. And you had Charles Manson, you had Jim Jones, you had I can't even think of that one church dude. Can't think of his name, but all these, and you hear about these crazy cults and stuff, religious cults, but man, this one, I mean, I personally believe that Chad Daybell is just a conning, manipulating Jim Jones Jr. And Lori, she had issues before she even met Chad. So, she was getting weird with the religious stuff, before she even met Chad. And with Chad, she just got pushed, to the brink, but I think she suffers from some mental illness. I mean, she's been married like 5-6 times, and she just can't maintain relationships or marriages, or and I just kind of think that she was easily manipulated. But I don't she's responsible for her part in it too, because like I said, she went cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs before she even met Chad Daybell. So, but if you get a chance to, and I'm in no way sponsored by Netflix, but watch Sins of Our Mother, the documentary on Netflix about Lori Vallows Daybell and Chad Daybell. It's a really interesting show. It's a 3-part series. Well, I am really excited to share this case with y'all. This is a case that's very near and dear to me. And it's one of, we as true crime enthusiasts or true crime junkies, whatever you want to call us, we have these cases above all cases that we want to see solved more than any case. Those top 10 cases that we in the whole world that we want solved more than any. And for me, one of those cases is the disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. Now, you might think, why in the world would you care anything about a plane crash and missing people from other countries and whatnot? There was 3 Americans on that airplane. So, but I genuinely care about people, no matter where you live or where you're from or what kind of background or what color you are or sexual orientation or whatnot. I genuinely care about people. And this case just breaks my heart because, we have those. Excuse me just a minute. I'm going to turn my fan on. I hope it's not going to be too loud. But, how does a modern airliner go missing for 8 years and we can't find it? With all the modern technology that we have and the modern technology that we had in 2014, it's been 8 years and multi-million-dollar searches, 2 searches have been done, and that plane has not been found. Granted, yes, it is very deep in the southern Indian Ocean, 4 kilometers down, and there are a lot of volcanoes and ravines and whatnot, down in the southern Indian Ocean. And, standing on the ground looking at an airplane, that's humongous. But when you're looking at it, looking for one 4 kilometers, looking for one 4 kilometers under the water of, one of the biggest bodies of water we have on the earth, it's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. But this is just one of those cases that has kept me up so many nights. Where is that plane? Where is that plane? And are these people ever going to find out what happened to their loved ones? Because the not knowing is excruciating in any case. When you don't know what happened to your loved one, that is the most excruciating part of a case. But I want to go over the case, go over the flight and whatnot, and give my insight and my thoughts on what happened, because I've been following this case for 8 years. I have, over the years, I've talked to aviation experts on Twitter, and everyone has a theory. Everyone has a place where they believe the plane ended up. And at this point, anyone could be right. But I'm looking at this case from a different perspective. I'm an American citizen. And in America, we have the right to a fair trial. We have the presumption of innocence. And before I convict a man of not only taking his own life, but killing 238 other people, you've got to give me something more than circumstantial evidence. And I don't care if it means, stuff that I don't fully understand, such as, airplanes and how they function, and, all the different data and whatnot, and how this works and that works. Just because I'm not an aviation expert, I'm looking at this from a criminal investigation, as if it were on the ground, and as if it happened, here in America. And, regardless of where we come from, no matter what the laws are in America, in Malaysia, in Vietnam, in Russia or China, we as victims of a crime deserve justice. We may all have different laws, but everyone in the world deserves justice. And the families of the victims of Flight 370 deserve to know what happened to their loved ones, and they deserve justice, no matter who's at fault, no matter if it was the captain's fault, no matter if it was Boeing's fault for mechanical failures, no matter if it was the Malaysian government and Malaysian Airlines. These people deserve justice. So MH370 departed Kuala Lumpur Airport on March the 8th, 2014, en route to Beijing, China. There were 239 souls on board, including 227 passengers and 12 crew members. The plane was piloted by Captain Zaharie Shah. He was 53 years old. He joined Malaysia Airlines in 1991. He became a cadet, and he became a second officer in 1983. He became the captain of the 737 plane in 1991. He became the captain of the Airbus 330-300 in 1996. And he became the captain of the Boeing 777-200, which is what Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 was, in 1998. The plane was co-piloted by First Officer Fariq Abdul Hamid. He became a cadet in 2007, and this Flight 370 was his final training on the Boeing 777-200. And so Captain Zaharie Ahmad Shah, he was also a trainer, and he was training Fariq Abdul Hamid, and this was to be his final training flight. So as I said, they were flying a Boeing 777-200ER. It was registered as 9M-MRO. It departed Kuala Lumpur Airport and was en route to Beijing, China. The last communication with flight MH370 with air traffic control was about 38 minutes into the flight after takeoff over the South China Sea. And it lost radar 2 minutes later, but was tracked by military radar. Now, where this plane lost radar contact with air traffic control was in a dead zone over the South China Sea. And there's a what's called a dead zone between Malaysian airspace and Vietnamese airspace. So there was a time in there where they had no radio contact with anyone, but they were still being tracked on Malaysian air traffic control radar at this time. And in the last radio contact, the last words from the cockpit were for them to contact Vietnamese air control and stay at 35,000 feet and, contact, is it Ho Ming Chu Air Traffic Control, I believe it's called. And the last words were, okay, good night, Malaysia 370. 2 minutes later, the radar was lost. However, and I don't know, I tried to look it up because I couldn't remember. Like, it's been 8 years following this case, but I was trying to remember how much of a time lapse there was between the time they said goodnight and the time they were to arrive in Vietnamese airspace. I want to say 20 minutes, but don't quote me on that. It may be longer than that. But at that time, the plane was seen by military radar making a sharp left off course over the South China Sea. It flew back over Malaysia, over Penang, and went over into the Andaman Sea, went up and into the it went up the Strait of Malacca, and its secondary radar contact was lost in the Andaman Sea. That is when ACARS kicked back in, which sends handshake pings to Inmarsat hourly. Well, the plane made 5 more hourly pings, which are handshakes. The last one was at 8:19 a.m. and it didn't log on. That is the time the plane is believed to have crashed into the southern Indian Ocean. The plane is believed to be in the seventh arc, what's known as the seventh arc. It is about 2,000 miles off the coast of Perth, Australia, and at a depth of 4 kilometers. Now, that is like 2, 3, 4 times deeper than what the Titanic was. And, it took 80 years to find the Titanic. But we didn't have the modern technology back then that we do now, or that we had in 1985 when the Titanic was first located. Now, I'm going to walk you back through the flight. And I'm going to input what information that we, the John Q. public, have that is available and not being classified by the Malaysian government. It's because there have been many, many, many conspiracy theories into what really happened to Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. There has been the Rothschild family Freescale semiconductor patent conspiracy theory. There has been terrorists. There were 2 guys found to be traveling with fake passports on the plane. Turns out they were cleared though, because they were just seeking asylum. They weren't terrorists. And there is the remote hijacking conspiracy theory that the plane was hijacked remotely through hacking. There is the conspiracy theory that it landed at Diego Garcia, the secret base in the Indian Ocean. There is conspiracy that it was shot down by Diego Garcia and being hidden at Diego Garcia. Aliens abducted it. It was sucked into a black hole. It flew to Kazakhstan, and a duplicate plane was flown out and crashed into the southern Indian Ocean. There is all kinds of crazy theories about this missing plane. But the two theories that people believe most are that there was a catastrophic mechanical failure and a fire on board, because the plane's cargo was carrying lithium ion batteries, a big shipment from Malaysia to China, which, to my understanding, the United States wasn't too happy about. There's also the theory that the pilot hijacked the plane and committed end-of-life murder for political reasons, because he was a member of a opposition group that was headed by a politician friend of his, Anwar Ibrahim. He was the leader of the opposition of Malaysia, and he had been reconvicted on some charges the day before flight MH370 took off from Kuala Lumpur. So it's believed that he did this in response to his political leader friend being reconvicted of some charges. And I'll get to that here in a minute. So I want to believe, and there is evidence to believe, that there was a catastrophic mechanical failure, that there was a fire on board, and that this ended up a ghost flight way off course, the same way another plane crash, Helios, was. And you can look that crash up. It's the crash of the Helios crash. Hi, Checking Convictions. How are you? Oh, you didn't get a notice? Well, I normally don't use StreamYard, but I'm able to use StreamYard now, and so I didn't use just my regular, YouTube live. But thank you for stopping in. I really appreciate it. Talking about one of the cases that has kept me up a lot of nights for 8 years. And so, okay, I'm gonna walk you back through the flight, and I'm going to insert information that supports both theories of a end of life murder mission by the pilot and a catastrophic mechanical failure with a fire on board. Oh, okay, good. Do you know much about this case? MH370 that went missing in 2014. Okay, so they leave Kuala Lumpur. Everything is fine. They are cruising at 35,000 feet. They are en route to Beijing, China, and it's mostly Chinese passengers. There's like 120 something there was like 120 something passengers from China, and then like 55, 59 or so Malaysians. There was a Russian, there was 3 Americans, there was a couple of Ukrainians, people from all different countries. So, keep that in mind. Keep in mind that it was predominantly Chinese people that were on this plane. So, the last radio contact was at 1:19 with Malaysia Air Traffic Control, and they're cleared to keep cruising at 35,000 feet. Contact Ho Minh Chung Airport when you get into Vietnamese airspace. Okay, good night, Malaysia 370. At this time, 2 minutes later, they are not only in this dead space between Malaysia, Malaysian airspace and Vietnamese airspace, they lose radar contact. Now, this is where one of two things could have happened. Either with the end of life murder mission by the pilot, he could have turned off the transponder, which would make them disappear from radar. Or something mechanical could have happened, and that just caused it to go off itself. Now, I do not know what the protocol is for pilots in this situation, to where they're in a dead zone, they can't radio and Mayday for help. What the protocol is for them to divert to an airport, or try to divert to it at the closest airport. And it would have been closer. One of their divert places to go was in Penang. They could not have made it to China, and apparently they could not have made it to an airport in Vietnam either. So I don't know what the protocol is for a captain to make a decision like that, to turn off course, to go off course and fly completely on his own, and fly blind for that matter. I just don't know. You know, I've seen every single episode, every single season of Mayday air crash investigation, and there's never been a crash to where anyone did divert on their own without permission through air traffic control, or through, some type of Mayday radar contact. But, I don't know. So the plane flies back over Malaysia, and data that's been retrieved by military radar says that the plane was flying erratically, that it was rapidly ascending and descending as it was flying back over Malaysia. Now, this is where it is believed that the captain was decompressed the cabin, and in an effort to kill everyone on board by means of hypoxia, because those little oxygen mask things only last for so long. But you don't need to fly erratically in order to decompress the cabin. You don't need to ascend and descend rapidly like that to decompress the cabin. That is a clear sign of mechanical failure. And it has happened many other times. Yeah, that's what all the aviation experts believe. But checking convictions, I'm an American citizen, and I just can't convict a man of killing 238 people without more than circumstantial proof. And that's basically what they're doing. They're convicting a man who can't even defend himself with circumstantial evidence. So, I'm looking at, while they look at this more through aviation eyes, I look at this more through human behavior eyes and a criminal justice, American presumption of innocence and fair trial by a jury of your peers eyes. So allegedly, when they fly over Penang, they're apparently flying low enough that the co-pilot's cell phone pinged off of a tower, and they don't know if he tried to make a call for help, or if his phone was left on. I don't personally see a co-pilot leaving their phone turned on while they're flying. While we as passengers may put ours in airplane mode, I'm sure they probably turn theirs off, I would think. You're in the wrongful conviction. Exactly. Well, that's what brought me into true crime back in the 80s was injustice, fighting for justice. I called myself an injustice activist. And all the aviation experts believe say that the plane made some type of a turn over Penang, and that the captain dipped his wing toward Penang as like a last look and flyover, looking down at Penang, which was Zaharie Ahmad Shah's hometown. That's where he was from. But that's just, still speculation. The plane then flew up the Strait of Malacca. Okay. Now, remind you, Zaharie Ahmad Shah had been a captain, or had been flying for 30 years. He knew the airspace. And they believe that he was weaving in and out of, I believe, Malaysian and, let's see, what's right next to, maybe, is it Indonesian airspace? But there's two airspaces there in the Strait of Malacca. And they believe that he was weaving in and out of each airspace in an effort not to be seen. I mean, you really got to be an expert to know those calculations of flying in and out of airspace. I mean, that's pretty technical. There was a plane that was shot down because it drifted off course and over into airspace it shouldn't have been in, and was taken down. So I mean, this was really an alleged pretty slick maneuver. And it went up into the Andaman Sea, and that's where it lost secondary radar contact, and which is military radar. Turned south toward the southern Indian Ocean and flew on for 5 more hours. According to their calculations, it was still in the air flying when it was supposed to be in Beijing, China the next morning. It was flying over the Indian Ocean, still in the air, according to their calculations, according to data. Now, you may be wondering why fighter jets weren't sent up. I'm wondering the same thing. And there were allegations made, and there was talk, early on in the case about Malaysia Air Traffic Control and Vietnamese Air Traffic Control. Someone was sleeping on the job, and I mean, when Vietnam realized that MH370 hadn't made it into their airspace yet, they called Malaysia, and then I think, I don't know, there was some back and forth and this and that, and allegedly some folks sleeping on the job. So, and at that time it was tracked for an hour. It took an hour to get from the South China Sea over to where it lost secondary radar in the Andaman Sea. It took an hour to get there. So, in that hour, it was already headed towards Antarctica. It was nowhere near the South China Sea. So, but if it was being tracked, if it had at least been tracked by military radar, to that point, it seems to me like they would have, why the military didn't intervene, why someone didn't, get fighter jets up in the air and start looking for this plane. But like I said, there was some back and forth apparently between the two airspaces and air traffic controllers and people sleeping on the job and whatnot, and it just, when the plane didn't arrive in Beijing, China at 6 a.m. that morning, then they decided to start looking for it. Well, hell, it's almost Australia and Antarctica by then. So, but when it lost its secondary radar contact and made another left-hand turn towards the southern Indian Ocean, here's where things get somewhat weird. There were witnesses on the little island of I can't really pronounce it correct. Koldu. It's in the Maldives Islands. It's called Koldu or Koldova or something. There were witnesses that claim they saw a red, white, and blue jumbo jet passenger airplane flying low, making a horrible racket, and it was flying towards the southeast. However, these witnesses were quickly dismissed. They were told, no, there's no way you saw it. You're just imagining it, blah, blah, blah. And then they came up with an airplane that was allegedly flying at the same time that flew into a small airport in the Maldives onto another island, and that it bore the same colors and whatnot. Yeah, it's that it don't make, it's this whole thing is just crazy. Checking convictions, it's completely crazy. Um, and then right below the Maldives is, guess what? The infamous Diego Garcia, the secret Navy base. Look up the history of that, of Diego Garcia. How they forced those people off that little island. Threatened to kill them if they didn't leave. I mean, they just infiltrated that place and forced all the people who were living on that island off that island. It's sad the way they took over. But we'll get in. Okay, now I'm going to get into why all the aviation experts believe that this was an end of life murder mission by the pilot um, in political response to the reconviction of Anwar, his friend Anwar Ibrahim, who was the leader of the opposition of Malaysia. And I want to issue a trigger warning for anyone in the LGBT community that listens to this. Please understand that homosexuality in Malaysia is against the law. And if you are found to be having a homosexual relationship, you can be sent to jail for it. And this is what happened with Anwar Ibrahim. He was married, with kids and everything. But in 1998, he was charged with SODOMY, and that is illegal in Malaysia. And he got a 7-year conviction for that. And then it was overturned. He did No, he got 9 years. I'm sorry, he got 9 years, and he did, I believe, 6 or 7 of those 9 years. And his case was overturned um, by appeal. So he was released from prison. Well, it was appealed again, and he was reconvicted. Well, then he caught another SODOMY charge in 2008. And he was acquitted. And here in America, when you're acquitted of a crime, you can't be charged with it again. That's double jeopardy. You can't charge somebody with the same crime twice. But apparently, even if you're acquitted of a crime in Malaysia, the prosecution can appeal it and get your acquittal overturned. Is that not crazier than hell? I mean, God, I kind of wish we could. I know of at least 2 acquittals I'd like to overturn. That would be O.J. Simpson and Casey Anthony. Definitely. Yeah. But so the day before Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 left Kuala Lumpur, Captain Zaharie Ahmad Shah attended Anwar's trial, where they overturned this acquittal and convicted him and sent him to jail. And Zaharie he's somehow kin to Anwar's daughter-in-law or something. Anyway, but he is a supporter of Anwar and, his leader of the opposition and whatnot. And here's the funny thing about Anwar. He believes that the sanctity of marriage should be kept between a man and a woman, but that the laws regarding SODOMY should be changed. And, that kind of makes me think, okay, well, is he guilty? Was he guilty? Is he one of these guys that, is gay on the down low? I mean, regardless of whether you're married and have children, and you may be an upstanding political person or an upstanding citizen, and people have their sexual fantasies and their sexual taste. And some guys like hookers, and some people want to go to dominatrix, or and then we have those that, even though they're married with children, are in their back room looking at child pornography. I don't judge people for what they do, other than child pornography and child pedophilia. Leave the kids out of it. Otherwise, let your freak flag fly. But those were, he did believe that the sanctity of marriage should be kept between a man and a woman, but change the sodomy laws or what. I don't. He was not a bad guy. At least from what I've learned about him, I don't think he was a bad guy. I mean, the people that are against, gay marriage here in America, we call them Republicans. And but they're not bad people. They just believe that what they believe, and that's their shtick. Um, and that's okay. That doesn't make someone a horrible person or a bad person. But if you're going to do something, at least be honest enough to, admit to your faults or confess your sins or whatever, because, cheating on your wife is a sin as well. So, and that's all I have to say about that. But, he is supported he has been supported by a lot of American leaders, and his whole trials have been very controversial and believed to be politically motivated, in an effort to get rid of him, and in an effort to get him out of the picture and whatnot. And hell, we see that shit all the time here in America. But here's the thing. And this is where I start looking at things from a human behavior perspective. Okay, your friend was convicted of these charges way back in 1998 when you became a captain of the Boeing 777. This is 2014. These trials and these charges have always been very controversial. But he has appealed them. He's gotten out. He's been acquitted. He's been, why would you not think that, okay, well, he may get back out again or whatever. But as a married man, a married family man who had been an exemplary pilot for 30 years with children, you're going to take your own life and kill 238 other innocent people because your friend may or may not like some freaky deaky shit. I just don't see it. I just don't see it. He had beaten the charges before. This had been going on since 1998. Anwar, he was not a radical. He was not he wasn't one of these far left or far left, far left or far right, radicals. And there is no proof that Zaharie Ahmad Shah was either. He was just simply a supporter of Anwar and his political views and whatnot. Um, there we're at a time here in America with politics. You either love somebody or you hate them. There ain't no in between. But no one's out killing anybody. No one's blowing stuff up in the name of this, that, and the other. I mean, you have the January 6th ordeal, which I don't even want to discuss. I mean, I think it's just I'm tired of hearing about it. Move on. I don't see anybody from Antifa going to jail or being brought to trial or any of that kind of stuff. So I'm tired of hearing about it. But you know, I mean, yeah, checking convictions. People have a breaking. Yeah, they have their breaking point. I mean, we all have our breaking point at something, but I just this is not something that was going to have any kind of big major effect on the country of Malaysia. These what I call petty charges, while they may be against the law in Malaysia, it's heterosexual couples have that kind of sex too. So, you know, I mean, I just think it's kind of petty, but it's, a horrid crime over there apparently. But to me, it's petty. And I just don't see this man taking his own life and killing 238 innocent people for that kind of dumb shit. Now, with that in mind, though, there was the crash of Silk Air 185. And this guy, this captain, locks the co pilot out of the cockpit and deliberately crashed the plane, killing everyone on board. And it was just a simple, it was an S word thing. He took his own life, but he took all them other innocent people's lives too. It's just selfish. And I don't know. I don't, from everything I've heard about and people that have come forward, even Anwar himself has said, I just can't imagine or believe that he would do this. And he is supposed to have done this in response to these charges that Anwar got. So, I just don't, I'm not ruling it out, but you're going to have to come up with more than circumstantial evidence that can also be explained by mechanical failures, before I stand and convict a man of killing 238 people and himself. Now, there was talk about that he had marital problems, that he was allegedly having an affair, and whatnot. Still doesn't mean he crashed the plane. You know, still doesn't. We all have problems. We all have marital problems and financial problems and whatnot, and you know, doesn't mean that we're going to go out and kill a bunch of people. And but you know, that's just how I feel about it. And but the problem is that, okay, let me get to newly discovered technology, as well as some missing evidence or missing data information. Okay, this man named Richard Godfrey, who is a British aerospace engineer, who does a new technology called Whisper. And what it means is that when an airplane flies through, this is technology through radio waves. And when an airplane flies through radio waves, it makes a disturbance. And so through this Whisper, this Richard Godfrey, who's this British aerospace engineer, has tracked the flight of MH370. But it throws, and it's the exact flight that is pretty much believed that the plane flew, that all the aviation experts agree that it flew, and ended up around 2,000 miles off the coast of Perth and in somewhere in the seventh arc. However, his technology and data throws a monkey wrench into the whole thing. After the plane turns left in the Andaman Sea, headed towards the southern Indian Ocean, his data shows that the plane went into a 20-minute holding pattern off the coast of Indonesia near Jakarta. Now, there's an airport at Jakarta. And the only reason why an airplane goes into a holding pattern is because they're waiting for other aircraft to land or take off at an airport that they are fixing to land at. So sometimes planes will be sent into holding patterns to wait in line, pretty much is what they're doing, to land. Okay. And he says the strangest thing about the holding pattern, that he believes that maybe he went into this holding pattern because he was having second thoughts. Makes absolutely no sense. If you have just hijacked a plane and flown it off course and possibly killed all your passengers, whether you killed your passengers or not, regardless, you're trying to land in an airport way, way off course. You got some explaining to do. why the hell you're down in the Indian Ocean and not in South China Sea where you're supposed to be at. That's a big difference. They have not found the black boxes checking convictions because they haven't found the plane yet. That's the big deal, is that in 8 years and two multi-million-dollar searches, they have not found the plane. So no black boxes. So I'm sorry, I can't. Now, maybe if I were driving my own self to a destination that I wanted to go to take my own life, okay? But let's say I stopped halfway between and got me something to eat at McDonald's and sat out in the parking lot and even logged on YouTube and watched a Netflix movie or whatever, but then went on to my destination. That's one thing, that maybe I was having second thoughts or whatever, or just stopping to get about to eat, think things through. You can't do that in an airplane that you've just flown thousands of miles off course. You better have a damn good story. And even if your story's good, chances are, most likely you will never fly again. That is the end of your career. Whether you are fired, whether you're forced to retire, or whatever, you better have a damn good story for why you're there. And there better be something wrong with your plane too. Like, it better be a dire emergency that you have to land that plane thousands of miles off course. So his little holding pattern thing doesn't make any sense in the grand scheme of things. When you're looking at this from human behavior perspective, there's it just don't make any sense. So either his data is wrong, or that was another plane, or who knows. But also, if you do apply that data and the plane went into a 20-minute holding pattern off the coast of Jakarta, then that's fuel you're using up. So therefore, those other pings and handshakes in the southern Indian Ocean, if they go by the theory that he ran it to fuel exhaustion, then I would think that would put the plane farther, not as far as where they think it is. That's what I'm trying to say. And I personally believe that, yes, I don't, all the data points to the seventh arc. They've done drift model analysis. They've done, there were pieces of some some pieces that of the plane that washed up on Reunion Island and Mauritius and on the along the coast of Africa, but very little, very little. And but I have always believed that there's a good possibility that could even be in the fifth or the sixth arc. And because, these early reports from the Maldives and these rumors and these, things that came out about Diego Garcia and whatnot, if the plane flew out a little farther into the Andaman Sea and then went southeast, it is very possible that those people did see that plane off the Maldive coast. So who's to say that, it didn't fly because it could have flown, it didn't have to fly in that exact, pattern, or in that direct flight. And it could have easily landed in the fifth or sixth arc. So, if it were just one person from the Maldives that had said that, I might, be skeptical. But there were multiple witnesses on that little island in Cordova or whatever it's called, that claimed to have saw a low-flying red, white, and blue jumbo jet making a loud noise. So if it did fly closer to the, off the coast of the Maldives, then it's very possible that it could be in the fifth or sixth arc. And still, the drift analysis would allow those pieces to float up over on the coast of Africa and Reunion Island and Mauritius and whatnot. I just think that it is, worth a look. But I read that allegedly Ocean Infinity, who was the private company that did the second search, are going to do another search in 2023 based off of Richard Godfrey's calculations. I hope that they do. This plane needs to be found. We need to know once and for all what truly happened and bring those families some closure and bring the world of aviation some closure, because that's a scary thought. That is a scary thought, that your own captain can have control over that much important stuff, that they can just flip it off with a switch. Because in the Silk Air 185 case, he switched off the cockpit voice recorder and the flight data recorder with the flip of a breaker. easy peasy Japanesey. Sent the co-pilot to the back to said someone on the flight crew wanted to talk to him and locked him out of the cockpit and crashed that plane bigger than shit. And, so for these pilots to be able to have that much control over vital stuff that can lose a plane, cause a plane to disappear, and you be able to hijack it and fly it thousands of miles off course, never to be found, or you can turn off the flight data recorder or the cockpit voice recorder so that no one ever knows exactly and truly what happened. I mean, it's that's scary. And, to be lost at sea, never to be found. I mean, y'all, I'm a weirdo. I have okay, well, I'm glad you came in checking convictions. I've enjoyed having you, and I know we didn't talk a whole lot, but this case is just it's so complicated and it's so frustrating. Um, but you have a good night, and I will hope to see you again soon. But it just to have a modern airliner be, you know, because not be found. I mean, it's just, I mean, we have the most modern technology in the world, and I don't want to see it take 80 years like it did the Titanic. My great great grandkids uh hearing about this case, you know 80 years from now. This has got to be solved because you know I believe it's, I mean, yeah, sure, it hasn't slowed aviation down, but I believe that it is vital because, you know, I mean, while we took precautionary measures to keep, to fix the doors and stuff on cockpits so that, terrorists can't break into it. We somewhat learned our lesson from 9/11, but, there's all kinds of ways of new technology and stuff for terrorists to take a plane down, or the captain himself. And I just think that a lot of changes need to be made to ensure people's safety and ensure that you're being tracked by someone when you're on an airplane at all times. Because if he did carry out this end of life murder mission, I mean, this was a mastermind, a total mastermind. And I don't know. Like I said, I don't rule it out. I just want people to really look at things from all different perspectives and different theories and whatnot. And like I said, while these aviation experts are all looking at this through aviation eyes, you know, I'm looking at this from a completely different perspective. And like I said, I'm no aviation expert, but I do know people. I have learned a lot about people and true crime and criminal behavior and human behavior, and you know but there is some cover up. There has been some cover up in this by the Malaysian government, and there is also a technological thing um, that was requested, data that was requested in this investigation. We have hydrophones in the ocean, and that can hear when something heavy hits the ocean. And when the hydrophone data was requested from Diego Garcia, there is 25 minutes missing from that data where the hydrophones were turned off. And that's vital, because if that plane landed anywhere near that island, that those hydrophones would have picked it up. So why were the hydrophones turned off at Diego Garcia for 25 minutes and restarted? Why is there missing data from those hydrophones? The Malaysian government is also responsible. They own a Malaysian Airlines. They are responsible for Malaysian Airlines. And I know how many millions of dollars was forked out by American Airlines to the survivors of Flight 1420, American Airlines Flight 1420 that crashed from Dallas to Little Rock, because my friend was on that plane, her and her two kids, and they went through horrible PTSD that is so sad and so heartbreaking that it's hard to even talk about it, how it affected them and how it affected the whole family and the PTSD that came with it, and how it affected the oldest child, who was 4. The children were 4 and 2, and they were on that plane with their mother. And her husband, who I grew up with, whose sister was my best friend for many, many years, and his parents and their parents helped raise me. How it affected them and what it did to them. And she in 2019, on the 20th anniversary of the crash of American Airlines Flight 1420, she got back on an airplane for the first time in 20 years. And she was just so terrified. She was so scared. But the Malaysian government, it would break them. It would break them. It would break the airlines. It would break everyone. But they are responsible for Malaysia Airlines. And I believe that it is easier for them to keep putting out this narrative of the end of life murder by the captain for political reasons, so that, and they don't want that plane found. I don't care what they say, they do not want that plane found, because they have been sketchy with the information coming out from day one. The Malaysian government has been sketchy as hell, and they have covered a lot of stuff up, and it's I don't trust them. I don't trust them a bit. So, but I have pretty much gone over everything and whatnot. Um, I just want this case solved. I just want this mystery solved, and for those families and loved ones to get some answers and to get justice, and possibly even, find their loved ones' remains and give them a proper burial. Speaking of airplanes, one's flying over me right now. They fly over here all the time. I have lived under a flight path for, even when I owned my home, I lived under a flight path. And sometimes it's annoying, especially when they do fly low. But anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful night. And like I said, I know that, this is not normally the kind of case that I cover, or that you would maybe even think that I was interested in, but it is. It's one of the top 10 cases of all cases that I want solved so bad. So bad. So, going out to all the family and friends who lost loved ones on that flight, Malaysia Airlines 370, Flight 370. I pray that you get answers one day, and that you are not left to wonder for the rest of your lives. Your family members deserve justice. You deserve justice. And Captain Zaharie Ahmad Shah deserves to be. He deserves his day in court. He deserves the right to, the presumption of innocence until evidence is has proven him to be convicted, you know, even though he's gone. I mean, this has destroyed his family as well. So, I just pray for the truth to come out one day and that this plane will be found and that we finally, once and for all, know what happened to Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. I want to thank Checking Convictions for joining me tonight in the chat. And as always, I want everyone to please remember to be the change that you wish to see in this world. As Michael Jackson said, it starts with the man in the mirror. Good night, everyone. Peace out and have a wonderful night.